301 first-class matches, 145 tests, 194 ODIs, and from all of these, uh, 1001 international wickets, countless 5 wicket hauls, countless 10 wicket hauls, but an inspiration for generations hence, a world class hero for Australia, a timeless marvel of international cricket, somebody whose action we've all come to imitate, somebody whose action we are never going to forget. Um, Came into this world in the year 1969, left it rather too briefly, much too briefly in 2022. The memories will live on, but the shock and sadness continue to hound us. Shane Warne, what a glorious life, and a life gloriously cut short by this unfathomable tragedy. At correct point, Pranay, who joins us, and Dev, we are both in shock, at loss of words, just don't know what to say. All I could do is just to wear this black shirt. I don't have a black armband. Um, Cricket is an entertaining sport, but guess what? It just turned much too darker and tragic last evening. Pranay, welcome to another edition of Correct Point, and you already know what we are discussing. What are your first thoughts, man?
Hi Dave. Hi viewers. I think the Maradona of cricket is left us. Uh, that's all that I can say. And from the time I got to know his sad demise, the ball of the century has been haunting me.
Right,
The
right.
one that spun outside the legs of Mike Gatting and
And
castled his, I think, middle stump or off stump. In fact,
clip the top of off, I think.
clipped the top of off. In fact, that was the time I started. Uh, Not exactly following, but looking up to this great icon of Australian cricket because while there were very good leg spinners before him, like the likes of Abdul Qadir and Srinivasan, I think of India, but the way Shane Warne changed the whole art of leg spin, I think it's beyond the realm of what should I say of common imagination, if that makes sense. Uh, I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
sad.
Yeah,
It's really sad.
the news the
In
news
fact,
struck me last evening. I was just sitting with with an old friend, a childhood friend, and we were discussing all things. We were making merry, having a cup of tea together, and it was a very pleasant, nippy evening in Delhi, made all the more somber by this WhatsApp that I received from another friend, and he said, "Dude, Shane Warne passed away," and I said, "Like, what? Shane Warne?" I'd heard about Rod
exactly,
Marsh.
Dave. What was the reaction that even I had?
I mean, I was just blank. I just said, this can't be true. It's just a bit too harsh. Like one of those pills you just can't swallow, and that was just very difficult. And that was that. I was just completely lost for words. And I think we have a little intruder who would not know a word about Shane Warne, but he's just wanting to just to be here. Say hi.
Hey, how are you, man?
Say I love you, Shane Warne. Oh, he's just holding something yellow.
For our viewers, that's actually Dave's son, and he's going to be the future icon of the Tyagi family in whatever he does.
We
And
have to we have to edit
he's,
that. It's just all Shane Warne today. But
yeah.
it was really
But Dave, I need to ask you this, that what did you think was the biggest driving force for Shane Warne? I mean, like, he's mastered the art of leg spin. He was a shrewd captain. I think he was the first winner of the IPL, if I'm not mistaken. A man
absolutely.
with many hats. But what's that one spark or that one thing that for you made Shane Warne stand out?
Shane Warne's instinct for domination.
Hmm.
I think that kind of set him apart. Even unless and until the final wicket fell, Shane Warne was completely on the job. He was. He was out there. There was no, he would never retreat, and
Hmm.
he wanted to make headlines, and he wanted to make headlines with his magic, and the magic lay in the
Wrong
fingers,
one.
and yeah, and I think we've all been fortunate, Pranay, haven't we, that we've grown up into being the 90s kids, that we had amidst us a pantheon of greats who we saw live in action, sometimes on the cricket ground, sometimes, on the TV. And I mean, Shane Warne's disappearance from this massive quartet of, for me, it's a quartet of Sachin, Lara, Talis, and Warren, three great batsmen whom Warren tackled time and again, whose wickets he took, whose timbers he disturbed. So it's almost like, you're on Mount Rushmore, and one of the familiar faces, it just
Yeah.
vanishes into thin air. So, so that was it's moving. I'm moved. The world is moved, and it's funny because when he was alive, and as a live cricketer, we were moved in awe. We were struck by inspiration, and now there's this desperation to. And I'm still hoping against hope that, and I know it's just very childish and funny of me to say that maybe somehow, this news is kind of bungled up, and somebody says, no, it's just a weird rumor, the guy is still there holidaying, making merry in Thailand, but you know it's not gonna happen.
And what's even more devastating is that when a person is away from home and a tragedy like this strikes, possibly on a vacation or possibly taking time off from his commentating schedule, a person just goes to seek more bliss and happiness and to be one with himself. And
I
when
think
tragedy strikes there, it's even more devastating.
absolutely, Pranay. And you know what, this the lowest ebb of this news regarding Shane Keith Warne is that just a few days back he'd put up his hands in the air and he said that, hey,
Rodney
guess what,
Marsh,
I'm, yeah. And yeah, just hours back he had condoled the demise of the great Australian, one of his childhood inspirations,
heroes.
Sir
Yeah.
Rodney Marsh, and he had said that, I want to make myself available for coaching the English cricket team. So
Hmm.
Shane Warne was the kind of character who was always up for challenges.
Yeah.
There was a time when the Australian bowling was completely dependent on his skill genius. This is not to undermine the presence of talents like Stuart MacGill, but would you really put Stuart MacGill and Shane Warne on the same? Um, where would they stand on the equilibrium? I don't know. So Shane Warne's instinct for domination, his mighty presence, which further strengthened the invincible Australian lineup of those years. There's some of the staggering wins in England, in the Caribbean. They would just whitewash the West Indians, and you would rarely see people standing up to tackle Warren, Gillespie, Megra. That was a brilliant triumvirate of bowling, and we just saw very high skill cricket in those days. And remember, these are days when cricket hadn't yet completely sold its soul to the the lucrative ounce of
IPLs, the
money.
T20s of the world.
Yeah, and it was still cricket. Like cricket was
Yeah.
not accidentally, it was largely part of cricket. And
Yeah.
now around the buck spinning hoopla of the T20 leagues mushrooming around the world, somewhere cricket is lost in the hinges of entertainment. It's kind of a shadowy world in which match fixing takes place. And make no mistake, Shane Warne had his vices too. He was involved in the spot fixing saga, not spot fixing, but sending the pitch information with a very dear friend, Mark Waugh. And he was
Hmm.
hounded, and that was perhaps one of the lowest ebbs of his career. Then he dabbled into diuretics on the tour to Sri Lanka, I believe, where he said his mom gave it to him because she said it would feel good for his body. But then again, Warne's ability to bounce back and to resurrect himself, as his with his passing, fans are gonna carry a huge cross. That's all I can say.
Hmm. They for me, there's this saying that goes that a captain is as good as his team. And Shane Warne definitely made the likes of Alan Border, Steve Waugh, and Ricky Ponting look $1 million
Yeah. No, no,
because of his
absolutely.
sheer genius with the ball. I mean, whenever any of these stalwarts were in a predicament as to how to go forward in the game, they just knew who to throw the ball to. And if
Yeah.
you
And
if you have
he
that
would
sort of
just
a
turn
cat,
it around.
yeah, if you have that sort of a character in your team that you know irrespective will come and perform, I mean,
Yeah.
it just works wonders. Because
What is
for
your
me, I just want to celebrate that icon. I mean, everyone has their downers, but what makes a person stand out is his will to go north. And for me, Shane Warne epitomizes the whole aspect of just going forward. Yeah.
Great. You know, I am just reminded back to the memory of the semi-final contest of the Wills 1996 World Cup. Do you remember Australia and the West Indies? And West Indies, they just needed
Hmm.
208 to win. And it was an innings which Richie Richardson was kind of hanging on well too. And he was unbeaten until the end. And Brian Lara had made a 45 and Chandrapal top scored 80. But do you know who the player of the match was? It was Shane Keith Warne for his majestic 4 for 36 of just 9 overs. And I mean, the way he just kind of dismantled the top and the middle order. He took some amazing wickets of Courtney Brown and Otis Gibson and Jimmy Adams and Ian Bishop when he was finally caught plumb in front of the wickets. And it was just very difficult for Richie Richardson from one end, just watching the proceedings like a hapless captain, just not knowing what to do. But and as you rightly said that when the Australians were stuck, they just threw the ball to Warren and he did his magic, and he just didn't let the West Indians even gather a paltry score of 203. Actually, they needed sorry of 208. They couldn't even make 208. This is when they had a Lara in their side, a Richardson in their side, and Warren just proved to be the the trickster as he was so often. So, but yeah,
Hmm.
the one thing which my mind has been constantly recalling about Shane Warne is, and ever since his demise, and it's barely been half a day, man. It's not even actually been half a day. It's just the 1998 1999 tour in India when he kept saying, he kind of headlined that series by saying that Sachin Tendulkar comes in my dreams and he hits me for runs. Now it was a lowly series for Shane Warne per se. He still ended up picking 10 wickets on that tour to India. And but the fact that the humility of the man, I mean, he's somebody who's outperformed Sachin and Lara and geniuses of that caliber time and again. But to completely not become the poster boy of the series, or not wanting to, like today's cricketers, there's so much of mind games with them on occasions. I'm not deriding them in any way, but everybody wants to be the headline material.
Hmm.
Shane Warne was content in undermining himself, saying that Tendulkar comes in my dreams and he hits me. And then I remember there was an article either in Times of India those days or Hindustan Times, in which there was a completely contradictory statement, and it says Shane warns Tendulkar. So it was almost like he had preempted Tendulkar to come down the track, bouncing down the wicket, and left him, hoist him for sixes. And guess what? It was runs and runs that Tendulkar made. I think it was the first Test match in which Sachin struck a magnificent century, but then the series ended with the Lakshman and Dravid special, and to have Shane Warne witness that series rather cluelessly, not being able to deliver the magic, that must have been something for him. Don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I have a question for you that when there's a very good batter and there's an excellent bowler and they have a contest that's unparalleled, it is also the start of a blossoming friendship, if you
It is.
understand what I mean.
Yeah,
And Shane Warne and Sachin Tendulkar actually off the field are pretty good friends. And for that matter, even I think Shane Warne and Brian Lara. So when you see
yes,
someone who's bold to you and who's given you that hard time, and to see him no longer exist will be a very tough pill to swallow. So, what do you think
yes,
would be the mindset of these great batters to see the person who made them great in a way because he was so tough to champion, but they
you're right.
championed him? What would
Yeah,
they be feeling?
I think I don't know, Pranay. The news of Warren's passing is just so mind-numbing that all I know is that Tendulkar and Lara have taken to Twitter to express their condolences and grief and shock about Warren's passing. But in a way, you are absolutely right because, uh, if not to a great extent, but to a good extent of what we know Lara and Tendulkar as, and these are two of the greatest batsmen of their era, two of the greatest batsmen of any era, as a matter of fact. They became what they became eventually because they were able to champion Shane Warne, because they had to pass through the litmus test called Shane Keith Warne. Remember the guy who made leg break a cool act, a cool skill to pursue, as many of us call it. So they must have been stunned because it's like, specifically of the 90s and the 2000s, there were the three premier faces of cricket. These were the Hollywood style celebrities in some way,
Hmm.
people who achieved astronomical fame, entertainers, thorough
Yeah,
entertainers. And it's like the three everlasting pillars of cricket, and one of them is just gone. So it's almost like the foundation of cricket as we knew it has sort of become weak. I don't know if I'm making any sense by saying that. So all we have now of that trinity is Lara and Sachin. The bowler is gone. Now, who do the batsmen face? They don't bowl at each other. The one who made them a champion, he's gone.
yeah, it's actually sad. In fact, I was just wondering from the time I got to know the passing of Shane Warne, I was just wondering if ever he would have bowled to the great Dawn, how would that contest have been? Would you see the great Dawn putting out a reverse switch hit, um, trying to be innovative in tackling Shane Warne's leggies? Just a hypothetical situation, but it just amuses me to know how would that battle have been. Possibly the greatest bowler Australia has produced to the greatest batter that Australia has
Greatest.
produced.
Yeah,
It would be something.
inarguably. Inarguably. Yeah, that would have been something. Then you have to imagine how Shane Warne would have held himself against the likes of Sunil Gavaskar, Gundappa Vishwanath, easily two of the most technically sound batsmen
Hmm.
to have come from the Indian motherland. The legends of the class of David Garr, the George Headleys of the world. These. I mean, Shane Warne was some is always going to be that sort of a whimsical figure who will completely transcend generations. You have to put his name out in any you know cricketing 11 special, for the lack of a better word, and it's just incomprehensible, the news of his passing. He shaped generations today, and with all full due respect to the magnificent talent of Dane van Niekerk, the Proteas captain, even when
Who
I
unfortunately is
personally,
not
for
playing.
me, he was not playing the World Cup, and South
Yeah.
Africa, Proteas women are bouncing back today against Bangladesh, gladly so. Um,
Are
when
they?
I see a Dane, so
There
when I
was
see
some
a Dane
50 for
van
no loss
Niekerk,
here.
they're
Bangladesh.
72 for 3 now,
Oh,
Bangladesh, the
fantastic.
Proteas fighting back. So I was saying, when I see a Dane van Niekerk take the run up to the crease, when she approaches the popping crease, that run up is a bit like, it's a bit like Warne.
Hmm.
And I know the cricketing world today is poorer without Warne, yet there are these talents like Adil Rashid, the great exponent of spin, Rashid Khan, but none of them would with all due respect to their skill sets and craft, they just can't be the Shane Warne. They just don't bring the enigma and the flair that Warne was able to bring out there. And cricket may have been played rather sparsely during Shane Warne's time, which is why I feel happy for him to have contested over a long span of time, 13 to 15, 14 years of cricket. Now, imagine if the T20s, Pranay, were to have been introduced in the 1999s or 2000s or 2001s. Knowing Australia's penchant for rotating play as well, they would definitely not have, hypothetically speaking, want to play all of T20s because
Yeah.
you want your best horse for the longest race course, so to speak. This is what I feel.
Mm.
So I'm glad that the 1001 wickets, and imagine the first man to reach 700 test wickets, the
Yeah.
first of kind and the last of his own class. I mean, I just don't get it. It's just too
Mm.
unbelievable news.
They've there's one thing I would like to say that he Shane Warne's spin was something that not only spun the batsman's wickets, but that spun the batter's mindsets, if you get
True.
what I mean. Because his his mind games were also something special.
Yeah,
Because he sort of figured the batsman out not only through his cricketing acumen, but through the game of understanding the mindset and predicting what the batter would do next. And that
you're
is simply
absolutely
like,
right.
I mean, if the bowler is able to get to dominate the batter in the game of mental strength, then I think just hats off to that person. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things about Vaughan was that he made quite a few batsmen his bunny, and I
Yeah.
remember the battles he had with the likes of Daryl Cullinan.
Cullinan. Yeah.
He was no slouch with the bat, huh? He was perhaps one of the most technically sound batters of his era. But he was just not able to get the hang of Shane Warne. I remember multiple dismissals in the 1999 and 2003 World Cups, and yeah, Warne was right there. I mean, Shane Warne, I think the sight of him was intimidating, and this is when he wasn't a fast bowler. This is when he didn't run into you wearing those bandanas with long hair, and the sight of a big burly fast bowler trying to tear you down, trying to
Hmm.
tear you to shreds. But it was just the art of conducting himself, the instinct for domination that I talked about earlier in this episode.
Yeah.
And, the fact that you knew that there was some danger looming in thin air with three slips, sometimes even a leg slip, I beg your pardon, short pin wicket, silly point, closing in, and the keeper is constantly chirping, bowling Shane, bowling Warren, and then Warren taking his slow rhythmic run up and then unfurling all the geniuses that he had. There was this art and culture to leg spin, I think, which we're going to miss, man.
Surely. And we shouldn't forget about his batting ability also. Lower down the order, he's played some crucial knocks.
Yeah, he's somebody who has.
He's
I was
he's
reading about
actually
his
for
numbers. He has 12 50s in test matches.
exactly.
His highest score is 99, just one shy of a
He's
100.
furthered Australia's cause whenever they're looking for a score, or when there's been a collapse, he's actually stood there in the lower order to cement a respectable total.
Yeah.
Dave, the only thing that I miss is that I just wonder if Shane Warne would have been Australia's captain, which never was the case. How would he have tackled the great, so to speak? Because let's face it, in the 90s, 2000s, Australia was possibly the greatest team on planet Earth. So if Shane Warne also would have captained that team, what I mean, what's something from his repertoire that he would have added to further Australia's cause?
Yeah. Um, I'm I'm a bit divided on this stance. I think Shane Warne loved competing.
Hmm.
Was he a shrewd man manager? Was Would he have been able to extract the best out of his players? Definitely, his reading of the game was was amazing. His match awareness was amazing, and one of the things which sets the good players apart from the great ones is that they're shrewd readers of the game. Their match awareness is something on another level. Uh, Captaincy may not have suited him because um, he wasn't the most disciplined campaigner.
Hmm.
Early on in his career, he had to lose oodles of weight for given his fondness for binge drinking beer.
Hmm.
Um, Shane Warne, the only example you would have been keen to set, given Shane Warne in consideration, would have been his tactical genius with the ball. But you want a leader to lead you. Shane Warne's philanderings off the pitch and some of the misgivings and some of the figures which he earned in his life, which weren't necessarily related to the stats accumulated on the cricket pitch, may not have been a compulsive flirt, a dear lover. There were just many sides to him, and I was just reading a tweet earlier today, and it's from the movie Anand. Somebody equated his life from that character that Zindagi badi honi chahiye lambi nahi. So I think
Hmm.
Shane Warne
Yeah.
he did it all, did it in his own inimitable way, if I would say it like that. And when the news arrived, and I was stunned by it, the only thing I've been doing since then, and it may sound dramatic, is that I've just been praying for the longevity of all cricketers, for that matter,
True.
everyone. Even when our role models, and this is just to digress a bit from cricket, if I am allowed the license, which is not to kill, by the way, not like Bond. I've just been praying that yes, we can eventually do without our role models, but we can't do for our parents. So swasth rahein, be healthy, do lots of meditation, eat well, eat mindfully, get good sleep. That's very important. Switch away for phones and the stresses of life. At anyways, life is unpredictable, and Vaughan's passing has proved that once again, not in the happiest of manners.
True. You know, the only thing uncertain in life is life itself.
Absolutely.
So when you go chasing certainty in life, it's like, you just, what should I say? You're just digging your own grave. So as you rightly said that live life large, that
Yeah.
should be your mantra because anything can happen tomorrow. So you should make today count.
Yeah.
I think to a
And
very large extent, Shane Warne did that. Yeah.
he did that. He
Even
was a
as a
man who he was a man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
even as a commentator, I think his reading of the game and his analysis
Astute. Very astute.
was phenomenal. And somewhere I'm of the opinion that there are a lot of commentators who have a certain sense of bias towards their home team.
Absolutely. You
But
can sense it.
the the neutrality that Shane Warne brought to the table, be it praising England, India, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, any country, West Indies, and holding a neutral sentiment towards Australia was actually really commendable.
I was just about to come to that, and so rightly said, Pranay. Kudos to you for saying that. Shane Warne was somebody who was not challenged by the nationalism of the Aussie spirit.
Exactly.
I mean, for somebody of his stature and world class reputation to have said only hours back in reference to Virat Kohli playing his 100th test that test cricket is indebted to you. I mean,
Hmm.
you're Shane Keith Warne, bro. Like, you're no less yourself. The
Yeah.
first man to ever scale Mount 700 wickets, like Lara scaled 400 runs, 700 wickets. These are astronomical achievers of the game. The statistics that they have left behind, they interact with the skies, if I were
True.
to speak rather dramatically. But and yet so humble, and yet, as you rightly said, ever appreciative of people who are not only Australians. I mean, when he came to the IPL, which okay is a form of cricket, and there is this whole culture and fan following behind it, which counts into billions. So when Warne came into the IPL, he became a Rajasthan Royal. He
Yeah,
became a Royal.
yeah,
He wasn't just the
true,
captain.
true.
He instituted Shane Watson into the camp. Later on, he earned the respect of Rahul Dravid. Rahul Dravid was effusive in his praise of Warne's um, working hard with the youngsters and just
Yeah,
so and then this wasn't the richest IPL league, nor is it still the richest team that exists. But the fact that legends like Shane Warne once wore the royal blue colors will forever remind fans of the love that Warne had for India. And India was always a destination that Warne frequented in his post retirement. And he spent a lot of time here, much like one of your other cricketing idols, Stephen Waugh, and they all became Indians in a sense. The
exactly,
I think you become a true superstar when your following sort of outweighs the one that you have in your own country, and when you are loved by countless many outside of your own dominion. And that's what happened to
exactly.
Shane Warne. You go to the Azad Maidan in Bombay, you go to the boys who are found, you know, the loitering around the Firoz Shah Kotla Stadium, and you find everybody is just somewhere or the other imitating the Shane Warne action. You know, when I
100%.
see a, when I see a Sune Loose going to deliver, the rhythm, the stride that she takes, that's Shane
Exactly.
Warne to me. Maybe she is not trying to imitate him, but somewhere growing up, she has watched Warney on TV. So it's almost like a poster boy hero, a driver of our imagination of all things
Hmm.
cricket. He has been just taken away from us.
His action was so uncomplicated and so repeatable that I feel that any and every person who has the slightest inclination towards cricket and has held the ball has tried to do a Shane Warne.
Yeah, he
It
was an original.
was it was so uncomplicated, and in fact, Dave, I must tell you this, that there are people who are materialistically rich, and then there are people who are intellectually rich. I think Shane Warne fit the latter more than he fit the former, and he's made people around him to mold themselves to the latter. If you understand what I meant, I mean
Yeah,
it's just phenomenal. You know,
it is.
cricket can make you materialistically rich, and then cricket can make you rich in terms of understanding the game better and appreciating the value that that game brings to the table.
Great.
So people like Shane Warne, Tendulkar, Lara, Bradman, Kapil Dev, Sunil Gavaskar, geniuses like them have made the value that this game brings to the table richer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of people will look up to them as stars, but I think they added to the cricketing culture. They,
Definitely, definitely.
they- they're
They are
very trans
intellectual icons for me.
the intellectual icons of the cricket.
I mean,
Is there
it's
anything more
just
you'd like to add to
phenomenal.
Warren before we wrap up this sad episode?
Uh, I I still can't get that sight of how he bowled Mike Gadding from behind his leg stump. I mean,
Ball of the century.
we can't see that anymore. Yeah.
We won't see
Just
that anymore. Earlier this
yeah.
morning, Ricky Ponting was saying that he was the one who gave me the nickname.
Punter.
And yeah, punter. I think it was Warren. And I remember that when Michael Clark was a newfound in the Australian team, then the very man who guided him, who helped him to settle down, find his own place, it was Shane Warne, called him Pup. And
Hmm.
well, Clark went on to, you know, hit that massive triple hundred. Uh, never again shall we see the likes of Shane Warne again. He was a bowling extraordinaire. He was a hero extraordinaire. He inspired, he gave us joy. The cricketing world is poorer in his absence. And while he was around, there was only one man you could rely on to change the nature and complexion of a game. In a batsman's game, if there was ever a time when the bowlers reigned supreme, then much of it goes to Shane Warne. That's how I would like to sum it up. Um, Pranay, it's been
I would
fantastic.
just turn that around. In a bowler's game, whenever the batsman sort of conquered them or conquered him, Shane Warne just didn't have a good night's sleep.
Probably, probably. And the dreams of Tendulkar.
Uh,
Superb, superb. Been a heartful chat.
it's it's been
Been a
epic, yeah.
memorable chat, and I think 2022 is just getting darker by the day, and cricket is perhaps never gonna get rid of this nightmarish loss that Shane Warne's demise has cast upon us.
And
With
guys,
that,
yeah, as we end this podcast, do look out for a heartfelt tribute that this man on the other side of the screen is going to be putting up on Corded Point soon. And believe you
I put
me,
one. I put one on Sports Tiger, but
okay.
there are a couple of articles which are coming up. Not from me. One from Abhishek Srivastav, one of our house writers, in-house
Hmm.
writers, and Gaurav Sethi. And I'm about to publish the latter's piece first. And much love to Warren, those who were associated with him, those who played alongside him, and against him. The world today stands in unison to tip the hat to a one of a kind trailblazer, a magician, a magician that just descended upon earth to create magic, and it's magic what he created in the end.
So, guys, stay tuned for those articles. We'll put the links in the description of this video. And the world has suffered a loss. We've suffered a loss. And the intellectual powers at play have massively been dented. That's all I have to say.
Absolutely well summed up, Pranay. And let's just give a salute to Shane Warne for all that he got to the sport, for all the generations he's going to inspire, for all the kids who will perhaps look up to their parents and ask that, who is this bloke? And they'll say, Shane Keith Warne, the magical wonder from Australia.
You guys aren't going to see the wrong one again, guys.
Yeah. We've been wronged. We've been
We've
wronged.
been wrong. We've been robbed, wronged, and
Robbed, wronged, everything.
devastated.
See you guys. See you
See you
guys till
guys.
another
Bye.
time.